All right. We are live. Okay, everybody. We are alive. Yes. Yes. Okay. On Gimel Amud Beis at the bottom, we saw a very interesting statement from Rav. Rav had said that now the general rule is if you have a deficient mikveh, it's not yet 40 saz of rainwater, and you add 3 logs, I think 3 logs is I think about a liter if I'm not mistaken. If you add 3 logs of drawn water to that deficient mikveh, you passel the mikveh. Mikveh's passel, you got to drain all the water, start all over again. Rav had made a statement that if those 3 logs of water add to it some wine, so you discolor the water to make it look like red wine, so the halacha is that it doesn't passel the mikveh. The mikveh is still kosher if that's added to the mikveh, because it's wine. It's not. I mean, it's called diluted wine. It's not called water anymore.
Red wine, not white wine.
Talking about red wine, correct. So the Gemara now had said, but we have another statement that quotes other Amoraim, or there's a Bryce of Rabbi Chia that says that the mikveh is passel. So how do you reconcile Rav with the Bryce? So yesterday we saw another brisa that brings a machlokes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. The Tanakama had said that you only do not passel the mikveh if the water is less than 3 logs, and then it's mixed with some other liquid to make it up to 3 logs. Either you mix it with red wine, or even if you mix it with milk, the halacha is that the mikveh is still kosher. Why? Because according to the Tanakama, less than 3 logs of actual mayim she'uvim, as long as it's mixed with some other liquid, does not passel the mikveh. By implication, the Tanakama holds that if you have 3 logs of water, it doesn't matter what you mix it with. Once you have 3 logs of mayim she'uvim, even if you change the color of the water, the mikveh is still passel. Okay? So that is irreconcilable with Rav. But what is Rav holding? Rav holds like the second opinion in the Brisa of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says you could even have 3 logs of mayim she'uvim, as long as you discolor the water with red wine to make it look like diluted wine. It's no longer halachically water, and if it's added to the mikveh, it does not passel the mikveh. So basically what Rava has said and to defend Rav is the Tanakama holds one way, that the mikveh with 3 logs of water that looks like wine is passel, but Rav holds like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri and says that the mikveh in such a case is kosher because hakol holech achar hamar'eh, everything goes according to the appearance, regardless of how much water mayim she'uvim is there. But wait a minute, says the Gemara. Now the reason, you'll see now why, I just had to clarify that point. V'hami baya boila Rav Papa. So now we're on the 6th line. But wait a minute. Rav Papa was unclear about the correct girsa of the brisa that you just quoted. De boy Rav Papa, Rav Tani Chaser Kartov Beresha, Aval Shlosha Lugin, Litana Kama Pasli, Va'asa Rabbi Yochanan Lamemar Hakol Holech Achar Hamara, V'Rav Da'amar Ke Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Odil Marav Lo Tani Chaser Kartov Beresha, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Ki Polig, Asefahu De Polig, V'Rav Da'amar Ke Divrei Akol. See, Rav Papa wasn't sure what the correct girsa was in the brisa. We've just learned that the Tanakama of the Brisa holds that the only time that mayim she'uvim will not passel the mikveh, regardless of its color, is if there's less than 3 logs of actual water. But Rav Papa said that may not be the correct girsa. There were 2 cases that the Tanakama addressed. One is water mixed with wine, and the other one is water mixed with milk, which doesn't discolor the water enough to make it not look like water. And in both cases, the girsa that we have, that Rava says we have, is that there's less than 3 logs of mayim she'uvim. But Rav Papa said, but there could be another girsa to that brisa, where the case of the water mixing with the wine is even when the water is 3 logs and it's mixed with wine. Because according to the Tanakama, either condition will not passel the mikveh. Either if there's less than 3 logs of whole water, or if the water looks like not water. And comes along Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, and he's more machmir, and he says, no, it's only based upon the criterion of the appearance. But basically, according to the way we've just read it, Rav would agree both with the Tanakama and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, and so Rav Papa wasn't sure. Does Rabbi Yochanan, does Rav's girsa, does it appear like we originally just said it now, right? Which is that Rav can only hold like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, or does Rav's girsa allow him to hold like the Tanakama as well? So why are you automatically assuming that Rav can only go like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri? So the Gemara answers. Like this: L'Rav Papa mi bayale, l'Rav pshitale. Rav Papa wasn't sure what the girsa was, but Rava was clear on the girsa. And according to Rava's girsa, it's clear that Rav can only hold like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, because according to the Tanakama, regardless of whether wine is added or milk is added, regardless of how the new color of the water appears, if you started with 3 loaves of water, you're going to passel the mikveh. And therefore, Rav cannot reconcile with that. Amar Rav Yosef lo shamiya li hashmaita. Rav Yosef says, I never heard a resolution to this issue as to whether the girsa of the Tanakama allows for Rav to reconcile with the Tanakama or not. Rava says it can't, Rav Papa says it might, but I never heard anything about this matter. So Amar le Abaya at amrat lan nihalan, v'hachi amrat nan nihala, derav lo tani chaser kartov bereisha, v'Rab Yechanan aseifa polig, v'Rav da'amar kedivrei hakol. So Abaya says, Ashuldig, Rebbe. He says, I'm sorry, my teacher, but you did teach us about this. I know, you see, Rav Yosef is cited many places in Shas of having had amnesia. He might have had some form of Alzheimer's or senility, we're not sure. Yes. But at some point in his life, he forgot a very large amount of his learning and was able to regain it, or at least some of it, by being reminded by his students later in life. So this was a case. Rabbi said, Rebbe, you say you don't remember anything of this matter, but you gave us a shir on this. And you taught us that according to Rav's girsa of the Brisa, he can reconcile himself with the Tanakama as well. Because the Tanakama is of the opinion that it's either or. Either you have less than 3 loaves of water to not passel the mikvah, or even if you have 3 loaves of water, as long as it has a different appearance, it also doesn't passel the mikvah. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri was only coming to say that I hold it goes only according to appearance, but if you have less than 3 loaves mixed with milk, it will passel the mikvah. But basically, according to that, Rav's shita, that says that 3 loaves of water mixed with wine would go both according to the Tanakama and according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Okay, if you were able to follow, great. If you weren't, also great, you'll have a chance to go over it again. Now let's go on to the next halacha. Va'amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Chavis malei amayim shenafla liyam hagadol hatovel shamlo also lo tevila, chayshinan lishlo shalugin shlo yu b'makom echad. So another halacha cited by Rav. Let's say a barrel of water spills into the ocean, and then right after it spills in, a guy jumps into that exact spot where the water was spilled into, and he's tamei, and he wants to toivel in the ocean to become tor. He jumps out of the ocean back onto his rowboat, and the halacha is, was it a kosher tvila? The halacha is that no, it's not, because we're concerned that maybe he was not enveloped by ocean water, but rather part of him at least was enveloped by mayim she'uvim, by the drawn water that was in the barrel. Okay? V'davka liyam hagodol dekoy v'kaima, aval nahara ba'alma lo. But that's only a concern when the water is relatively stagnant, like ocean water. But if it's river water, say a barrel of water, of drawn water, or any other liquid, spills into the river, even if a guy jumps into the river immediately after that water spilled in, you can rest assured that he's been completely enveloped by river water, because the constant current will wash away whatever water spilled in a moment before. Tanya nami hachi chavis melei yayin shenaflu liyam hagadol hatovel shamlo also lo tevila chayshinan lishlo shalugin shalo yiyu b'makom echad. So the Bryce actually supports this. The Brisa says that if a barrel filled with wine, that's the example of the Brisa, spills into the Mediterranean, and a guy jumps into the water immediately after the wine spilled in that exact spot, and then he jumps out. So the halacha is it's not a kosher tefillah because we're worried that he wasn't completely enveloped by ocean water. He might have been partially enveloped by wine. V'chein kikar shel truma shenafel sham tameh. And then we'll go even further and we'll say that if after this tameh guy jumped out of the water, you threw in a loaf of bread into that exact spot and pulled it right out, that loaf of bread, which is truma, would become tameh and would no longer be edible to anybody. Why? Because maybe when the tameh guy jumped into the ocean, he came in contact with the wine and not with the ocean water. The wine became tameh through coming in contact with him, and then when the loaf of bread fell in, it touched the wine that was still stagnant, and it became now tameh. So my v'chein. So the Gemara says, why does the Brisa need to add that on? Wouldn't I be able to intuit that? I mean, obviously, if the guy's not tahor, then he's been metame the wine, and obviously the loaf of bread then would be tameh. So what's the point of telling me that? The chiddush is mahu detema hasam uki gavra achazake hacha uki truma achazaka kamash malan. So you might have thought not that way. You might have argued as follows. Listen, this whole issue is only a suffix at best. It's only a suffix whether he was the tvila that he did was kosher or not. So maybe since he has a chazaka of being tameh, we have to assume that because it's a suffix, whether it was a kosher tvila or not, put him back on his chazaka. But what does that have to do with the loaf of bread? The loaf of bread had a chazaka, had an assumption of being tahor. So if it falls into that water and wine mixture, maybe you can also, since it's only a suffix, maybe you can only put it back on its chazaka and say that the loaf of bread is tahor. Kamash malan, that we don't say that. That just like we say that the tefillah was not kosher for that guy, we also assume emphatically that the wine is tameh, and therefore if afterwards a loaf of bread fell in, we say definitively that it became tameh. Now, why that is, and why we should say that we're so machmir in this case, is not for today. There's a lot of intricacy in the laws of tumah and tahara, and suffik tumah, suffik tahara, and I refer you to Sefer Shav Shmaitza. Whenever you have time, about 3 or 4 years to study that full time, go right ahead. Next Mishnah. Me'idin anu bi'ish ploni shechayiv lechavero masayim zuz v'nimtzu uzomimin lokin u'mishalmin shelo Hashem ha'mevin lidei makos mevian lidei tashlumin divrei Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Meir is of the opinion that there can be a double punishment for edim zomimin. If, let's say, they testify that Ruvain owes Shimon $200 and they're proven to be edim zomimin, so they get two penalties. They have to pay vasisam lo kasher zamam. You do to them what they attempted to do to Ruvain, so you make them pay 200 zuz. But you also give them malchus because they violated the law of lo sa'ana v'reacha eit shaker, one of the 10 commandments. Do not bear false witness against your fellow, which in itself is a mitzvah lo sa'aseh for which the penalty is malchus. So you get two punishments, one for being edim zomimin and one for being edei sheker, and therefore you get two penalties.
Will that be all edim zomimin?
Yes.
Not just this case.
Well,
it's a big clout.
It's a big clout. It's a big clout. You're absolutely right. Now, you could say that when you put them to death, you don't give them malchus because kimlei b'derabamine. But when it comes to payment, we could say payment and malchus go together. Okay? Now, b'chachamim omrim kol hamishalim einu loike. And the chachamim disagree. And they say no. From the principle of asisam lo kasher zamam, you have to do to them what they try to do to their fellow, which is to make him out-of-pocket loss. So therefore, they certainly have to pay. But if they're paying, they don't get malchus. Why? We'll see momentarily. Next. Me'idin anu bi'ish ploni shu chayiv malchus arba'im v'nimtzu zomimin lokin shmona mishum lo sana b'reacha eit shaker mishum asisam lo kasher zamam divrei Rabbi Meir v'chachamim omrim ein lokin ela arba'im. Similar machlokes, that if the edim zomimin testify that a guy ate chazer and he has to get malchus for it, and then it turns out they're edim zomimin, so they get two sets of malchus. They get one set of malchus for violating losana v'reacha eit shaker, second set of malchus to do to them what they try to do to their fellow, which is to get him chayiv malchus. And here too the chachamim disagree, and they say no, only one set of malchus. Now, let's analyze this. Bishlam l'Rabbanan kidei rish asok siv mishum risha echas atamachayvo via tamachayvo mishtum shei rishayos. I can certainly understand the Chachamim's position that they hold there's no double jeopardy. In other words, the Torah, specifically in the laws of edim-witnesses, says kidei. When this is referring to Malchus, the Torah in discussing the penalty of Malchus says you give him Malchus according to his wickedness in the singular, which indicates that when a person's getting Malchus, that's all he gets is Malchus. You punish a person for one crime and one penalty per one crime. You don't have two penalties for one crime. So there I certainly understand the Chachamim learned from the Pasuk that you can't give a person two penalties for one crime. But Ella Rebbe Meir, my taima. But what's Rebbe Meir's reasoning? Amar Ula Gamar Mimotzi Shemra. Mamotzi Shemra Loka Umishalem, Avkol Loka Umishalem. Rebbe Meir says, I look at an example in the Torah where a person does get a double punishment. Motzi Shemra. Man accuses his new bride of not being a virgin on their wedding night, and it turns out that he's proven to be a liar. The Torah says two things. Number one, v'yisaru oso, they shall afflict him, which the Gemara understands to mean Malchus. And then it says, v'nasan lavi hana'ara me'a kesef. He's got to give to the bride's father 100 pieces of silver. So you see that there are circumstances where a person both gets Malchus and pays, and the same thing would be true by Edim Zomamin. But wait a minute, Mala Motzi Shemra Shekain Kanas. But maybe I'll argue that Motzi Shemra is an exception because it's clearly a Kanas. Why? When you make a guy pay 100 zuz, he hasn't caused 100 zuz worth of loss, so that's a Kanas. That's by definition a penalty. So maybe the Torah makes exceptions only by penalty cases, and Edim Zomamin is not a penalty case. So the Gemara answer is Sover la Rebbe Akiva Domer Edim Zomamin Kanasu. The answer is that no. Our Rebbe Meir holds like who? He holds like Rebbe Akiva that we saw yesterday. Rebbe Akiva holds that the whole penalty of an Edim Zomamin is a penalty, is a kanas. Because remember, they didn't cause someone loss, they didn't cause someone damage, and yet you do to them what they attempted to do. So therefore that too is a penalty. So if we see by the penalty of Motzi Shemra that you can make a person liable for two penalties, you can say the same thing by Edim Zomamin. Ika damasni laha du'ula aha. Some learn that Ula's statement of invoking Motzi Shemra was not referring to our Mishnah, but rather was referring to the following. Detanya lo sosiru mimenu ad boker v'hanosar mimenu ad boker ba'esh tisrofu. The Torah has a law of nosar, which means you have sacrificial meat that's meant to be burned on the altar, and you neglect to burn it in its proper time. The Torah says that it's prohibited to leave that meat until the morning. If you do leave it until the morning, ba'esh tisrofu, you have to immediately incinerate it. So, ba'akosav litain, asei acharlosa, asei lomar, she'en lokin alav diver Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda says, why does the Torah say the remedy? It says that if anything's left over, you shall burn it. It's to teach you that normally we would assume that if you leave something over until the morning and it's a mitzvah, you violated a mitzvah lo saseh, you should get malchus for it. The Torah has to explicitly tell you, no, you don't get malchus in this situation, but rather the remedy is just burn it. You did a naughty thing, but instead of giving you malchus, we're just going to tell you, here's what you do to rectify the situation, just burn it whenever you find it. So Rabbi Akiva Omer Lo Min Hashem Huzeh El Mishum Dahavi Lav Shein Bo Ma'isa V'Cholav Shein Bo Ma'isa Ein Lokin Alav. And Rabbi Akiva disagrees. Rabbi Akiva says that's not the reason you don't get malchus for violating the law of nosar. The reason you don't get malchus is because it's not an active action. It's a passive action. You left over sacrificial meat. You didn't do anything. You didn't do something. And you can never get malchus for passivity. You can only get malchus for an act of violation, an active violation. So Michlal de Rabbi Yehuda Savar Lav Shein Bo Ma'isa Lo Kelav Minole. So you see that Rabbi Yehuda holds that even a passive act can earn you malchus. Where does he get this from? So Amar Ula Gomer Mi Motzi Shemra. Ma Motzi Shemra Lav Shein Bo Ma'isa Lo Kelav. Af kolav shem bo ma'isa lo ken olav. He learns it out from Motzi Shemra. Motzi Shemra is a man only making a verbal accusation. There's no action. He's not eating chazer. He's not stealing. He's not, violating Shabbos. He's not doing anything active. He's merely speaking. That's considered to be passive. And therefore, if you can get malchus there by Motzi Shemra, this shows you can get malchus for all passive acts. So wait a minute. Mala Motzi Shemra shekain loka u'mishalim. But maybe I'll argue that Motzi Shemra is an exception to the rule. You see, it's exceptional because we wouldn't give a person a double penalty, and here by Motzi Shemra, he both gets malchus and he pays. So maybe you can't bring that as an example. Ela Amar Reish Lakish Garmeh Edim Zomamin. So Reish Lakish says, okay, you're right, but he learns it from Edim Zomamin. That by Edim Zomamin, you see that they can get malchus even just through a mere verbal testimony, not through any action. And so here too, you see you can get malchus for passivity. So the Gemara says, "Ma edim zomim in lav shein bo ma'isa lo ken alav, kol lav shein bo ma'isa lo ken alav." That's what I just spoke out. But wait a minute, "Ma le edim zomim in shekain ein tzrichin hasra." But wait a minute, maybe also edim zomim is an exception. The Gemara in Ksuvas teaches us that for edim zomim, the witnesses the false witnesses do not need to be forewarned in order to be able to be punished, and that's not true by any other Torah violation. By all other Torah violations, if the perpetrator is not forewarned, he can never get punished. Edim Zomamin is an exception, so maybe that's the reason why they get malchus for their passivity, but not in other cases. So Motzi Shemra Yochiach v'chazar adin lo re'izeh ki re'izeh v'lo re'izeh ki re'izeh atzad hashava shebahen lav shein bo ma'isa v'lo ken olav av kol lav shein bo ma'isa lo ken olav. So the Gemara makes what's called the tzad hashava. You're right. You can't learn out from Motzi Shemra because you could argue that it's exceptional because there's a double penalty. You can't learn out solely from Edim Zomamin because you could argue that it's exceptional because you don't need to give them hasra before the fact. But if you create a commonality between them, a tzad hashava, the tzad hashava between the two of them is that they are both passive acts where the penalty is malchus, and therefore, from the two of them jointly, you can extrapolate and say that all passive acts that are violations of the Torah can earn you a malchus penalty.
We can treat Zomamin also as kenas.
Rega, 1 second. Good. Well, wait a minute. Malat Sadashava Shabahen Shekain Kenas. That's Mr. Friedman's question. But what about the fact that both of them are exceptional because they're both cases of kenas? Maybe non-kenas cases would not earn you malchus for a passive act. So halo kasha, Rabbi Yehuda lo savar lo ka Rabbi Akiva. So the answer is that, remember, we saw yesterday that Rabbi Akiva is the one who innovates the idea that Edim Zomamin is a kenas. But other Tanoim don't agree with Rabbi Akiva, and therefore, Edim Zomamin, according to Rabbi Yehuda, who makes this tzad hashava, would not be a kenas. Elamala tzad hashava sheben sheken yesh ben tzad chamor. But I'll ask you another question. Both the case of Motzi Shemra and Edim Zomamin have something exceptional about them. Motzi Shemra is you can get a double punishment. Edim Zomamin, you don't need hasra. Maybe because of their exceptional, chumras that the Torah places upon them, that's the reason why you get malchus for passivity. But where there's no exceptional chumra on a mitzvah, you wouldn't get malchus for passivity. But the Rabbi Yehuda tzad chomer lo parich. Rabbi Yehuda says that's not a fair question. According to him, the very definition of a tzad hashava is you find a common law between these two things, and as if their exceptional aspects or facets are not shared in common between these two, you can't invoke them to say that you cannot make the tzad hashava. So he holds that the tzad hashava is still valid even though each one of them individually has some exceptional facet to it. V'rabbanan haylo sana v'reacha eit shakar my darshibe. Okay, fine. Let's go back to the machlokas between the Chachamim and the Rabbi Meir. The Chachamim say you can't get double penalty. The question then is, well, there are two mitzvahs lo saseh in the Torah. One is do not bear false witness, and the other one is don't be an eid zomeh. Why do you need both commandments in the Torah? If they're not to provide you with a double punishment, then why do you need both psukim? Hahumi boy le'azhara le'edim zomamin. The answer is because edim zomamin does not say thou shalt not be an eid zomim. It says that if you are an eid zomim, the penalty is such and such. So we need another pasuk to say thou shalt not. And that's the pasuk of Losana v'reacha eid shakar. Do not bear false testimony against your fellow. V'Rabbi Meir azhar le'edim zomim in minale. Now, according to Rabbi Meir, who learns that both psukim are teaching me the penalty, one teaches me you get malchus, the other one teaches sisam lo kasher zamim, do to him whatever he tried to do to his victim. So then, where's the original source of thou shalt not, according to Rabbi Meir? Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah nafkalei me v'hanisharim yishma'u v'yira'u v'lo yosifu od. He learns it out from the last part of the psukim that are written by edim zomimin. It says over there that after the edim zomimin are punished, everyone who's there shall hear and shall see what has transpired to learn not to do it ever again. So that statement, to learn not to ever do it again, is in itself the source text for the thou shalt not. The Rabbanan ha'umi boile lahachraza. But the Rabbanan say that's not what that last pasuk in edim zomimin is teaching me. It's teaching me a separate law, which is the Gemara in Sanhedrin had said that there are 4 types of criminal penalties that require public proclamation after the punishment has been meted out. One of them is edim zomimin. After we've punished edim zomimin, we need to gather everyone in the public square and say the following 2 people have been punished as edim zomimin, and we want everyone to learn a lesson. That's what the pasuk is coming for, not to tell me thou shalt not. But Rabbi Meir achraza meishmu v'yira'u nafka. But Rabbi Meir bisects the pasuk. He says the first part of the pasuk is yishmu v'yira'u, they shall hear and see, is referring to the law of making a public proclamation. But the second part of the pasuk of v'lo yosifu od, that they shall never do this again, is teaching me the mitzvahs lo saseh thou shalt not. Okay, that concludes that discussion. We'll now do a quick Mishnah and a quick Gemara, and with that we'll be done. We've seen this quoted before in the Gemara. Mishaloshin b'mamon ve'ein mishaloshin b'makos. That we split the monetary penalty among the witnesses, but we don't split the malchus penalty among the witnesses. What do we mean by that? Keitzad. He'idu shu chayv lechaveru masayim zuz v'nimsu zomim mishalshin b'neiim. So, for example, the witnesses testify that Reuven owes Shimon 200 zuz, and they're found to be edim zomimin. Each one pays 100 to make the guy whole. Aval im heidu shehu chayv malchus arba'im v'nimsu zomimin kol echad ve'echad lo ke'arba'im. But if they testify that Reuven ate chazer and he needs to get malchus, and it turns out they're edim zomimin, you don't say each one gets 20 malchus. No, each one gets a total 40. So now the question is why? The Gemara says, Minahani mili. Where do we know this from? So Amar Abaye knows, where do we know that what? That you never split malchus. So Abaye says, Nemar Rasha b'chayve malkios, v'nemar Rasha b'chayve misas beistim. Malahalan ein misa lemechza, avkan ein malchus lemechza. Abaye says very simply, we have a gzeira shav of the word Rasha connects the death penalty to the malchus penalty. Just like you can't kill someone halfway, you can't do a half an execution. The guy's either dead or he ain't dead, in which case you haven't executed him at all. So too, you can't give someone half malchus. Malchus, by definition, with a healthy person is 39 lashes. There's no such thing as half malchus. And that's why, even though maybe the letter of the law should dictate that you should split the malchus, but that's not malchus at all. And therefore you give each one 39 lashes. Rava Omar, ba'inan kasher zamam lasos la'achiv v'leka. So Rabbi says, let me explain to you why. He has a different explanation. That each one of them wanted to do to his fellow, that his fellow should get 40 malchus. So therefore, each one of them, you do to them exactly what they had attempted to do. And therefore, each one of them gets 40 malchus. Now, let me just explain this the way I understand this. What Rav is essentially saying is there's 2 ways of looking at edim zomimin, at their penalty. Either you make them make restitution to the accused of what they attempted to do to the accused, you make them give that to that person, or you make them suffer, you do retribution. It's either retribution or restitution. There's 2 ways of looking at it. If it's restitutionary, then whatever they can do to make him whole is all we care about, not what their expending, what is being taken from them. But if you look at it as retributionary, so then whatever they try to do to him has to be done to each one of them. And Rava is saying when it comes to Malkus, it's purely retributionary. It's not restitutionary. And therefore, you have to do to each one of them exactly what they tried to do to the other guy. They tried to get this guy to get Malkus, so each one of them has to get 40 Malkus. But the Gemara says, Ihachi mamonami. Well, if that's the case, if it's retributionary, then each one of them should pay a full 200 zuz, because each one tried to get the guy to pay 200 zuz. So the Gemara answer is, Mamon mitztarif, Malkus lo mitztarif. The answer is, money can be joined together, whereas Malkus cannot. So this is the way I understand it. Other people, I think, understand it differently. My understanding of it is like this. When I try to give you Malkus, and I need to be punished, it can't be restitutionary. The punishment is not restitutionary. How do I know that? Because when I get Malkus, you get nothing out of it. When I get Malkus, there's no benefit that you get out of my getting Malkus. So therefore, it has to be purely retributionary. It's purely an act of retribution to me. And therefore, since it's retributionary, I have to get exactly what I tried to do to you. That's my punishment. But with money is restitutionary. Because when the Torah says that I have to pay you, it's basically saying, even though you didn't cause him a loss of money in the end, you tried to cause him a loss of money, so give him the amount that you tried to make him lose. It's a restitutionary form of punishment. And so therefore, since you together between the two of you, you'll provide restitution of 200 zuz, then that's sufficient. So when there's no restitution possible in the penalty, you look at the retribution. But when restitution is a possibility, so then all we require is restitution, and therefore by money, just as long as he gets 200 zuz, that's all we care about. Have a wonderful day.